What would you sacrifice to alter an already guaranteed future? The new school year has begun in the quiet town of Opal Pines, and with it, new problems for Kylie and Jordan. Kylie's mother barely lets her out of sight, and Jordan's new friend makes it clear he's no fan of Kylie. Even their older selves are at odds with each other. Siani refuses to intervene with the events to come. Meanwhile, Rotanu is not sure the ends justify the means needed to get there. To make matters even worse, a familiar woman from the June kidnapping is back and wants Kylie's head. What happens when the past is painful and still seeks vengeance, the present is lonely, and the future uncertain? Hello everyone, and welcome once again to the Heir's Lair. I'm your host, Jonathan Taylor. Today's video, as you might have been able to guess, will pay off the setup that was last week's video when I first looked into the Riyati series as penned by Kai Zeal. And it will do so by looking at the upcoming release within this series. Now, wait a second till I pick you up. Riyati Rivals. With a cover that is very evocative of the pattern that the first book has laid out. Yeah, just a general black cover and then a big symbol right in the middle. Now wait till I set you back on. Yeah, this will do. Now the symbol is, as far as I can tell, it's the same from the first cover, except it's red instead of that greenish blue that the first book had. The symbol doesn't appear in this book either. However, it is mentioned in the acknowledgement sections, where it is described as a glyph, an in-universe manifestation of the magic. It is somewhat regrettable that it doesn't show up in story, but at least it's presented. That's good enough for now. Unlike when it, and I have to say that there's another way in which this book differentiates itself aside from the dominant color on the cover, namely the fact that I didn't reach out to the author with any questions. Partly because the answers that she gave me when I first reached out to her were quite comprehensive or quite all-encompassing already. Partly because this book is at least a little bit better when it comes to answering the questions it itself asks. So it is, to that extent at least, perhaps more self-contained than the previous. What does that say when it comes to its quality? Well, the TLEW, or Too Long Didn't Watch, summary of my review is, this book is in many ways an improvement over its predecessor. The cast has been streamlined somewhat, which allows the author to more effectively focus on how the events of the plot ultimately influence not just the characters, but also the dynamics between them, making for a more involving reading experience. The world building has also been improved quite a bit, filling out some of the gaps that the previous book left, while also expanding in some quite interesting ways. So if the first book in this series has been to your liking, it is quite likely this second one will impress you. I do, however, have to remind you of the content warning list that I talked about in the when it comes to the first book, because it is equally applicable, or arguably even more so, when it comes to this book. So again, this is an adult book covering adult topics, even if the characters are even if the characters are teenagers. So proceed with caution. And now that I'm done with the general aspects of the book, it's time I delved into some specifics. The plot follows primarily its main duo, Kylie and Jordan, i.e. Danny, who has been kind of pushed as the third piece of a triad, has now been relegated to secondary character status. And these two, Kylie and Jordan, discover that even though they've overcome the thread that was the thread that defined stakes of the first book, there are other factions out there that are that are targeting them, making their return to a normal life not as simple or as frictionless as they might have expected. The narrative plots they go down are not necessarily more complex or more simple than they were in the in the previous book, but I will say that they are sorry about that. I will say they are more involving. They are more effective at focusing and leading up to the various major plot-worthy events that occur throughout this book, and they are more effectively capable of tying or of bringing in variety of involving a lot of the characters within the story, making for a more dynamic reading experience, which also does a great job at portraying the developments of the characters, whether they are pushed together or pulled apart. Yeah, that kind of thing. And now that I've kind of alluded to that, characterization is done quite well within this book. Kylie and Jordan as the leads obviously get the lion's share of attention, given most of the events happen to them to some extent, and through their trials and tribulations, readers get to know their fears, their abrasions, and their grit just that little bit better, allowing them to get a better, get a broader, more comprehensive set of insights into who they are and how they generally operate. Their alternates, Ciani and Rotano, also get some level of definition and development over the course of this book. Primarily through their interactions with their respective leads, Ciani for Kylie and Rotano for Jordan, respectively, but also in how they interact with each other and how they react or respond to the various side characters of the story. And given I've mentioned the side characters quite a bit so far, I have to say that while the cast of side characters isn't necessarily as expansive as it was in the first book, I'll say this second book is more effective at utilizing them, at involving them within the plots, within the most important plot relevant events, and from that point forward, showcasing what exactly it is about them that makes all of them distinctive. Not every character is bound to resonate with every reader, but the ways in which these characters are presented, and in which they interact and connect with each other, is nevertheless represents a quite naturalistic progression, one that allows for the reader's gradual immersion in the process of getting to know who it is that they are. Speaking of things the readers get to know, the world building has improved as well. I'll say from the previous book. The previous book has already covered the big picture aspects of the conflict this series is built around. This book focuses in on some of the specifics, on how the magic system works, on how it has developed, and what its ramifications, to some extent at least, are bound to be affected or influenced by more modern developments. it is, it is to that end, and an interesting presentation. And I'll have to say that the presentation of the various aspects of the world and of the conflict, especially the facets of the world building that influence the presentation of conflict dynamics, has changed very much to the better, because it is not concentrated solely within action sequences. It is very much a free-flowing reveal that occurs throughout the entirety of the book, giving every chapter the potential to reveal something, meaningful and become a hard-hitting, resonant moment within the development of this book's plot. It is a little bit unfortunate that it is still the lead's alternates that take center stage when it comes to the action scenes. However, both the leads themselves and the audience is a little bit more well connected now, both to the or rather, I should say, less detached, less aloof when it comes to the developments within the action scenes. The alternates themselves, because they have a because their stakes are somewhat altered, and they have to fight taking that into account. And for the audience, because now that the magic has been expanded upon a little bit more, they have more to follow, and more that allows them to get themselves involved within the actual action scenes themselves. It is still somewhat regrettable. Nevertheless, I do have to restate that I would have preferred to see the leads actually take more of a center stage within the action scenes rather than their alternates. Thankfully, however, the ending of this book alludes towards that being the case in future installments, and that is very much something I'm looking forward to. Overall, while this book still represents some growth issues, it still represents a significant development, both when it comes to the author's abilities to present a story, and within the actual series itself, in terms of how it shapes the dynamics of the conflict that it presents. My final rating for Riyati Rivals is a 4 out of 5. And yeah, that was my review. Thank you for your attention. If you enjoyed this, well then please like the video, maybe even share it wherever you think other people will also like the video. If there is anything you'd like to add, either to the book itself or to my review of it, that's what the comment section is for. And if you want to see when my next video gets released, well then please subscribe. And ideally also ring the bell or do whatever else YouTube will ask of you in order to keep you notified. My books, the first of my own Heir to the Empire series, The Next Generation of the Path Not Taken, are available at various book retailers under their respective master links in the description down below. Right past my social media links, which I also suggest you check out should you choose to. Additionally, I also have a second channel where you can hear me talking about whatever crosses my mind. Though typically whatever crosses my mind will be related to narrative analyses of works outside of the printed word medium. If you, however, want to hear more about my thoughts on the printed word medium, then I suggest you stay on this channel and go through my extensive backlog of book reviews, writing advice, and miscellaneous connected topics. If none of that interests you, then I suggest you go ahead and do whatever you want the rest of your day, because it is your day after all. And yeah, that was it for me. So, until next time, I am Jonathan Taylor, and this has been the Heir's Lair.